Hey Kobe, this is Keaton Everett with ABC, going over your pitching video from camp. We're going to go through and talk a little bit about your motion, your mechanics, go through frame by frame and take a look at different spots and the different things that we look at throughout your motion. All right, so we're going to go through and talk a little bit about each step, and so we'll start here from the start. All right, so we're going to go look at your setup. All right, so right initially, all right, here's where you come set right here. All right, so what we look for is, sort of what everything's doing balance-wise. All right, so we want to see where everything is, how you're starting, and basically what we don't want to see is we don't want to see that head come out of that box backwards. We don't want to see any motion backwards. All right, so as you start going forward here, all right, you're doing a good job at staying over your back foot. All right, so you're doing good at staying back. All right, nothing's going backwards, but what you're seeing is you're starting everything a little bit too early. All right, so you watch your hands right here. All right, so let's take back a few. So you can see your hands start to come down, and your knee kind of come up, and then everything kind of starts right here and kind of swings open. All right, so what I mean by swinging open is you can see this knee kind of stays flat as it comes through these steps right here. So you can kind of see there, kind of swings open. All right, and so what we want to try to stay closed a little bit longer, and we want to try to get our hands to eliminate this motion here. So we want to drop our hands down, all right, because as you can see, as you get going forward, you can see your hands come down anyways. So your hands are coming down, and then they break right there. So what we want to try to see is to come set with your hands already set up down here. All right, so your hands are going to come set down here. So then as you come up, let that leg get up nice and high. Now everything starts to break, and what we want to try to see is staying a little bit taller in this back leg. You can see this back leg's kind of closing down on itself. All right, just stay tall and try to get more sort of angle on that inside part of your knee. So driving with that inside part of that knee and getting your hips going forward will help a lot more. All right, so once you get up to this spot here, get a feel of taking that glove in that pocket back there and those hips and driving that forward on the inside part of your knee, on the inside part of your foot, so those start to lead down the mound. All right, so then the hips are leading. So then at this point here, all right, instead of this leg already being open right here, it's going to still be closed, maybe somewhere around this spot. All right, so you can kind of think of, maybe kicking down the mound with your heel. But we want to try to get our hips closed as long as we can down that mound to store all that energy in that lower half. All right, because this is where the velocity, this is where the power comes from, is in the hips in that lower half. So as you get older and get stronger, that's going to become a lot easier for you. So everything's just kind of starting too early. So we just want to try to get those hips stay closed longer down the mound. And so then what that's going to do is, this is your foot strike right here. So once that front foot first hits the ground, what you're going to see is this is, you look like a tall kid. This is way too short for how tall you are. We got to be driving down that mound. So at this foot strike, once this front foot first hits the ground, you're seeing that back foot kind of turn up off the ground already. You got weight loaded on that inside part of your knee, but you're going to see yourself probably get, another 1.5 feet or so of stride length down that mound. So then that knee's not out over that front foot, and I bet you could probably get to about right here with everything. All right, and that's just power, that's just velocity, staying closed longer, using that lower half, and that'll be huge for you, just using that lower half body. All right, and then one thing to key on too through this release point, all right, is directionally, when you get farther down the mound, it's going to help yourself out a little bit, but I want you to watch this front arm and sort of the direction of this elbow. And the shoulder is everything's kind of going up this way. All right, so just kind of cue in on all those things. And you can kind of see it like you jump up and kind of make yourself a little bit taller. You straighten up that front foot at that release point. And what we want to try to get to a point of is try to get this elbow up a little bit higher. All right, and don't let it start to turn already. So then as you get through this motion, this front glove is going to stay out over this front foot a little bit more, and your chest and your body is going to rotate into that glove, staying out over that front foot. All right, so then through that motion, all right, you're not going to pull that glove off. What that's going to do, along with that extra stride length, is we're going to get you to a point where at this release point, all right, looks like it's somewhere in between these two frames, you're going to see this back foot still on the ground. You're going to see your entire leg straighten up. You're going to get that body out over that front foot, but you're going to get yourself more into a triangle position. All right, so you're just using all your body. Right now, this is just sort of using all upper body, all legs. If you're thinking about punching somebody, you're going to get more power behind it, having one foot on the ground or having both feet on the ground and driving through that back leg. Same sort of thing with pitching. It's just all about getting that power from that lower half. So right here, so now you're going to get out over that front foot. Chest is going to be out here. Now your release point, I bet, will probably be closer to right here. All right. So now you're releasing the ball, 1 to 2 feet closer to the hitter. That ball's going to jump on the hitter a lot more, but you're just going to get yourself in a lot better position to throw the ball, to release it with power, to release it with velocity. So then through that release point, here is basically all that's taking the deceleration is your shoulder. All right, and so we want to try to divvy that out throughout your entire body. So the more we can kind of use your entire body, your legs, to decelerate that arm, the less strain it's going to take on that shoulder. All right, and so it's just something that as you get older, get stronger, it's going to become a little bit easier for you. So just work on keeping, the biggest thing for you is just work on keeping your hips closed as long as you can down that mound. Drive as far down that mound as you can, and everything else should sort of work its way into shape. It's just sort of something that keys off that lower half, keys off that stride length. So it's something that should come easier for you. You get a little bit older, a little bit stronger, but something to definitely focus on right now. But anyways, overall, other than that, your arm looks like it's in a pretty healthy spot. You're starting very good, so just make sure you're getting, the key is lower half, lower half, lower half. So anyways, thanks for making it out into camp. Hopefully you had a great time, and we look forward to seeing you with ABC.